I feel like everything that I've done so far, from me playing football since 5, to me working at Kroger, which is a grocery store down south, to me working at J.C. Penney, and just doing all these, little jobs have led up to the being personable, the customer service, serving people. Like all of those different things lead up to where your passion is going to take you. Would you agree with that? Like for the people listening, don't kind of downplay where you're at now because it can lead you to where you need to be.
100%. I bloom where you're planted, right? And then
Ooh.
from there, think about what your next steps might be.
I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag.
What's up? You are now listening to FYI FLI, the podcast, and I'm your host, Hassan Thomas, along with Remy, and we are here to share tools on how millennials can budget, save, invest, and understand student debt and credit to achieve financial freedom. If you're a high school student, college student, or someone who's interested in gaining more financial insight, this podcast is for you.
I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a
What's up, my FYI Fly folks out there? How y'all doing? I hope y'all doing all right. Welcome to the FYI Fly podcast. My name is Hassan Thomas, aka the kid that did and the man that can, baby. And today, we're going to be chopping it up with former T-Mobile employee, but now he's currently supplying T-Mobile employees with financial wellness through his own business. Mr. Kevin Estes, how are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir, man. You know, we originally met at FinCon. My voice was a little gone, but now it's back. Now it's vibrant. So what we like to do here on FYI Fly, man, we like to skip the fluff and get right into the good stuff. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
I think it's just so cool. Like when we talked and you told me what you've done, you know, you worked with T-Mobile as an employee. While you were there, literally noticed a need, noticed a problem, and you became that solution. So talk to us how you birthed your business from literally leaving another business.
Yeah, I did notice a need because I had people in finance. So I worked in corporate finance in the financial planning and analysis department there. So this is, financial planning for big corporation. And I had people in finance, my coworkers, who were coming to me asking about, what do I do with my 401k? Or, hey, what's this employee stock purchase plan thing? And I would usually kind of, hey, let's take a minute and go jump into a conference room real quick or somebody's office and have a conversation. And I realized that if people in finance were having these questions, good luck to the people in marketing. Good luck to the folks who are at, retail stores, who are at call centers. It's a very complex benefits package. There's a lot going on. For instance, we did something that I was so proud of at the company, which is we gave everybody equity in the company. Every single person who's a full-time employee got restricted stock units. The folks who are coming in, they might be 22 years old, right? Might have an associate's degree, right? And they're just starting out their careers and they're getting hit with employee stock purchase plan and restricted stock units. That is seriously complex. And so I just knew there was a need. And so far, it's proven out that there are people who definitely have some questions about their finances, and I'm in a good position to be able to help them.
So, man, I just got me a full-time 9-to-5 job that I actually like, which is a blessing. So I see myself being there for a long time, and I just had to do my benefits package. I mean, literally, man, it was PPO, HBO, whatever, man. It was a lot of different acronyms and words. So can you kind of just simplify on a general level, like benefits for those, like you mentioned, those young 22-year-olds that are just jumping in, and how I was seeing all this different, acronyms and things of that nature. Kind of just simplify it in a little bit if you can for us.
Yeah, and congratulations on the new role that you really love. That sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
You seem like you have a good long future there. You're wonderful in person, so I have no doubt that you're doing wonderful things at your company.
I appreciate it.
You betcha. At a high level, there are a bunch of acronyms and numbers, right? And so the numbers are typically going to be your retirement plans through your work. And they tie back to where they are in the Internal Revenue Services Code, right? Where they literally document what your taxes are going to be. So things like 401k, 403b, 457b, all of these things are named after where they are in the code. And they're ways to be able to put money in and save money on the front end, let it grow, so you get, tax savings up front. then you get this
Yeah.
tax deferral. You don't have to like pay any taxes as that grows with investments, hopefully. But then you do have to pay taxes on the back end, right? So when you withdraw that money, usually when you get closer to into retirement, that's when you're going to have to pay the taxes, and it will be taxed as ordinary income. It's not going to get, some of the nice benefits you get from owning a stock. So that's the biggest one. That I say the nice benefits there, first and foremost, is you just pull that money out of your income and you're automatically saving it. So it's a way just to slowly build some of that wealth. There's also usually an employer match, right? So with that employer match, you might put in 5% and the company might put in another 4%, right? Not taking advantage of that is kind of like walking away from free money. Many people do have equity compensation. That was part of what I was talking about, especially in tech. And then there's this whole healthcare area, right? Healthcare and insurance.
I was about to say, we need that, Gems. We need that secret sauce on that, man. Because I'm asking for myself and for my listeners that when it got to the insurance and the healthcare part, like I understand the 401ks, the 403bs, Roth IRAs, things of that nature. We talk about that regularly, but man, when it got to those insurance benefits, I'm like, Mom, what is this? You know what I mean? So kind of jump into that for us.
Absolutely. And that's the right call too. It's just to go ask people who might know, right? Ask professionals. I would say that, so on the healthcare side, it's all about health insurance, and it depends on how much you spend in medical, right? Every year.
Okay.
If you have a pretty high level of spending, let's say you have some prescription drugs, or you have some ongoing treatments, or you have diabetes or an ongoing, medical ailment, it may not make sense to have very inexpensive insurance that could potentially qualify for things like a health savings account, right? So on the health side, you really need to look at what your expenses are and figure out whether a higher premium product that pays more of the benefits would be right for you. Or if you don't really use it much, maybe it is the right thing for you to be able to go ahead and get a high deductible, low premium plan with the ability to then contribute to something like a health savings account.
Really quickly, do you have to have a high deductible? And the way that I understand the deductible is this is the amount that you have to pay before the insurance pays or helps you out. So why do you have to have a high deductible just to have a health savings account?
It's the law.
Simple as that.
It really is that simple. That's the law, and so basically the government wants to give people a tax break if they're going to be able to pay, or if they're going to be paying for their own expenses, right? And so to be able to give that trade-off, they say, well, you're going to have to pay more out of pocket for you to be able to get these goodies over here with the tax savings of a health savings account, which is triple tax advantaged. It gets, instead of avoiding tax on the front end and then letting it grow tax deferred without having to pay taxes and then having to pay taxes on the back end, if you actually go through the health savings account and spend it on qualified medical expenses, you don't actually pay taxes on the back end either. It avoids Uncle Sam altogether, a little ole from us to you.
I love it. So what would you say like the big difference is between a flexible spending account versus the health savings account?
Absolutely. And the word is in that middle term, right? It really is the important one, is spending versus savings. With a spending account, with a health spending account, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? There is a little bit of rollover that you can do from one year to the next. However, for the most part, you don't use it, you lose it. With the health savings account, if you leave your employer, you can take that with you. It is portable. And so you can, and the other nice thing is you can invest it. Usually, most companies will have a couple $1,000s you have to keep in cash to be able to pay for your medical expenses. However, the additional amount above that is something that you can invest in and go with. Many employers will put in some money into your health savings account every year so that you don't have to maybe put as much out of pocket into that account.
Got you. Yeah, that's great game. That's great game there, because I chose to have the best available healthcare account because I am now turning 26. So as many may know, once you turn 26, if you're not already off your parents' health insurance, you're getting booted off at 26.
Well, what a benefit. Back, I think it was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act extended it to 26. It used to be that pretty much when I went off to when I left college, I did not have the ability to be on my parents' insurance anymore. So it's nice that you have
Uh-huh.
that flexibility. But if you don't mind, I'd love to cover back on your insurance question. And I'll
Yeah.
just say that the way that I see insurance, especially things like life and disability, is that when you're young, you have your whole future to be able to make money. But then
Mm-hmm.
as you age, you kind of cut down on the number of years you can work by one every year. And so you have less time. You can't trade as much future time for money. Hopefully, you're
Mm-hmm.
saving along the way. And hopefully, you don't have as many insurance needs as you start to build some wealth. However,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that early in life, especially if you're in your 20s and you're just getting going on your career, disability, life and health insurance, I'll put them all together, are critical. Because if something happens to
Okay.
you, you can't make money anymore. You're probably going to have to spend through anything you have saved, and then it's going to be potentially onto government assistance.
Government assistance or credit cards, getting into heavy debt, things of that nature. So I think it's very important that, we're receiving this information from experts, tap back into your pathway of actually starting your business, your experiences at another business, which was T-Mobile. What would you say gave you that confidence to go ahead and make that leap, leave your business and start your own business, Scaled Finances?
Yeah. So scale finance was something, it didn't have a name for it for quite some time. I started,
Mm-hmm.
I was into the financial independence community, and I realized that when people were coming to me for questions and I enjoyed those conversations, that felt empowering to me. It's like, wait a minute, like if I like doing this and people need this, there might be a business here. So first thing first, if I'm interested, right, and I definitely seem like I have some expertise, that seems like a
Yeah.
win. It tied into my past education as well. My credentials, working at the Federal Reserve, working in management consulting, these things help for what I'm doing now. But I'd say
Mm-hmm.
before I launched, the biggest thing for me was to get a good sense of everybody's finances, not just my own experience. Right? My end
Gotcha.
is, well, I just have one experience in this earth. I need to be able to understand a lot more people, right? So I went
Mm-hmm.
through and started studying for the Certified Financial Planner examination. It took me a very long time. It usually can be done in like a year and a half. It took me more like three and a half. Because I was at
Wow.
T-Mobile, we used to have nights and weekends plans. I could tell you my nights and weekends were being spent on studying,
Uh,
right? And so that's what I did. I also got more engaged with financial independence community. Was constantly talking money and learning from people and seeing what works for them, what doesn't work for them. We saved a lot, to be frank,
mm-hmm.
Hassan. So we had years of expenses saved. It
Mm-hmm.
potentially, depending on how the markets go and inflation goes, maybe forever, right? So I knew that I
Yeah.
had a very long runway to be able to launch this business. And as long as I could turn a profit and I could do things that I love to do, that was
Mm-hmm.
going to be a win. That's what gave me that real confidence.
That's huge, man. And I want everybody paying attention here because, especially in the minority community, we feel like we have to jump off without having a backup plan, jump off without having that safety net, as you mentioned. And we have to do these things with our back against the wall. And I want everybody to understand that you don't have to do that. You don't have to struggle to see success or for your success to be validated. Work that 9 to 5 job, use that 9 to 5 job as the bank, and then when you're ready. So for you, was it a monetary readiness? Like, okay, I have this amount of money saved up. Now I'm ready to go out and do my own business. Or was it like, hey, the stars are aligning, people are coming to me, I feel confident, I'm about to start this business now? Like, what was that?
I would say it was all of the above. It was preparedness, both from just a knowledge base. I learned so much going through a really challenging program. I also
Uh-huh.
was prepared just because I'd had these conversations with people. I knew what they needed. And that gave
Mm-hmm.
me that comfort to say, oh, okay, if I know what they need and I can provide it, there's a business here. And that last P is
Mm-hmm.
passion, right? I had a real passion to be able to help transform people's lives, help them
Mm-hmm.
take control of what their own destiny is going to be. And those
Mm-hmm.
three things are, I think, together. It's not just one thing, it's all of them. They came together to say, wow, this is going to work. This is what I want to do.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing, and I love that it all worked out for you. And I'm happy to hear that your past experiences kind of led up because I was having a conversation. I was like, I feel like everything that I've done so far. from me playing football since 5 to me working at Kroger, which is a grocery store down south, to me working at J.C. Penney and just doing all these, little jobs have led up to the being personable, the customer service, serving people. Like all of those different things lead up to where your passion is going to take you. Would you agree with that? Like for the people listening, like don't kind of downplay where you're at now because it can lead you to where you need to be.
100%. I bloom where you're planted, right? And then
Ooh,
from there, think about what your next steps might be. And I see this a
I like
lot
that.
with folks who are thinking about going into entrepreneurship, who may work at a very large tech company and making really good money, is they sometimes have this tendency to discard all of their past experience and all of their education. And I
Yeah.
would suggest if there's a way to leverage that past information. So, are you really going to be better at real estate than somebody who's been doing real estate for the last 20 or 30 years? If you came in and you were studying finance and working in finance, no, I think that you might actually be able to find something that's finance adjacent that would be a better fit with your skill set, something that will give you some more gravitas, right? Some more
Yeah.
proof that the authority that you can really do what you're one to do. What is it that's
Hmm.
your unfair competitive advantage? What is it that only
Yeah.
you can do based on your experience? That's where I suggest people focus for their business.
Wherever you're kind of more naturally inclined at, you're more naturally talented. It comes a little bit easier than for everybody else. Kind of
Yep.
pour your energy, your time, your money on there with self-development in that area and watch it bloom.
100%. You can shore up your weaknesses, but your superpowers are what's going to make you money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And whenever you were talking about the employees that were coming to you with different questions and things of that nature and different needs, what would you say, from even the employees that you help, on the daily, today with your own business, what would you say are some major issues that employees are facing when it comes to dealing with their finances?
The biggest thing I see over and over is cash flow, right? They
Hmm.
tend to buy a lot of homes, right? And it can be speculation. They tend to not they tend to spend pretty much all of what they make. They tend to, more importantly, they often will have a whole bunch of company stock, which has
Hmm.
got some real problems with it because one company is more risky than a bunch of companies combined. That's the whole idea
For
behind
sure.
diversification. But they haven't sold
Hmm.
those. So they're like, oh, I can't invest in these other things even though I want to because I don't have the cash. And I'm like, what about this 100,000 over here? Can we talk about that maybe? And so
Yeah.
I would say the first thing is that people feel broke even though they're making a ton of money is because they're spending every penny they get in some form or fashion. And I say, wait,
Hmm.
let's slow down a little bit. Is there a way to be able to use some of this other income? You think of it as an asset, you think of it as an investment. The IRS thinks
Hmm.
it's income. Let's treat it like
Yeah.
income and be able to use that to fund some of these other things in your life and some of these other investment opportunities.
I love it. I love it, man. So whenever you are, managing this money, what budget system do you use? What method of budgeting do you use? Do you recommend the same budgeting method for all of your clients, or is it, different strokes for different folks? What does the budgeting methods look like for you personally?
Yeah, and this is going to sound terrible. I don't believe in budgets. I worked in corporate finance for a really long time.
Ooh,
I know
okay,
it's
we
going
need
to
to
get
hear this. We need to hear this.
yeah. I think it's much because you think about it, it's like going on a diet, right? You're going to want to hit that number, but then what happens after you hit that number, right? What next? Well, I'm going to go on a bender and eat a whole bunch of food, right? That's not the way I
Yeah.
like to do with budgets. I don't want them to be restrictive. Instead, what I find is more important is to be really mindful of what it is that you're spending. Go through all of
Okay.
your expenses and be like, is that an up arrow or is that a down arrow? Again, coming from the Your Money, Your Life book from back in the 90s. Is it worth it to you? And there are sometimes I go in there and I'm like, I didn't even know I was paying that. Like, that's a recurring
Hmm.
monthly subscription. I haven't used that in forever. I'm going to stop that right away, and that's going to help with my cash. Sometimes the
Yeah.
opposite is the case, where it's like, you know what? We did this and it was totally worth it. Maybe we double down in that area. And so I like to say I don't like
Hmm.
budgets. My wife challenges me. She's like, yes, you do budget. It's called a zero-based budget, where you literally go
Okay.
through every one of our expenses and say, we do it together as a family.
Give
Does
it a
this make
job.
sense? Or does
Hmm.
it not? And then, while I don't necessarily believe in budgets, I do believe in forecasting, right? I do believe in the power of saying, okay, if we did this for a while, what would that do? What if we assumed a 7 or 8% growth rate in our investments? How would the money that we're saving now play out for the future? Without a deeper why, it's really easy to have the what's creep in, and all of a sudden you're spending all your money again. But if you know what you're saving for, if you have a clear idea of what this could accomplish for you, I find it very empowering for me to be able to cut where it's unnecessary and just invest where it really is.
Man, it sounds like you're literally running your life as a business. You know what I mean? You talk about forecasting, putting the dollars, putting the money to work and things of that nature. So you're literally the CEO of your own life. And that's what I like to tell some of the college students that I'm talking to. I tell them all the time, you're the CEO of your own life. You cannot spend more money than you are making, because if you do, you won't have anything. And that's the same thing with the business.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I would say that we have a lot of fun, right, with our lives, and not just numbers and dollars and cents, right? It's really, but it is a matter of is it worth it? That intentionality, right? You can change the plan, but you got to have the plan.
Okay. I like that. You can change the plan, but you gotta have one. And I also double down on what you said with having that why, having that vision, because one thing I've always told, when I tell stories about this, my dad told me to save 50% of my income when I was in high school. I didn't, but looking back on it now, I know why. One, he didn't tell me. I wish he would have told me the specific reason why I should, and also what happens if I don't. So either whenever you're talking to people, whenever you're talking about a why, kind of give them the big hope, the big vision, the big, payoff. But also you got to scare them just a little bit, just to let them know, like, hey, if you don't save this, buddy, if you don't have a pretty good credit score, you're going to have to pay more. You're going to be going through some things and may not have a fallback fund or a peace of mind fund. So just giving the why is huge. I'm right there with you.
Well, I look at it like right. If you're going to go on a nice long trip, going really quickly in a fast car, going there really fuel efficiently is going to be really bad if you're going in the wrong direction. The most important part of any road trip is where you're going and where you are. And so I think that those goals are critical, because without them, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Right. So to me, that first step of what would I like to accomplish, really, really critically important. And we threw big numbers out there, right? If you're saving 50% of your income every year, you're going to be able to hit financial independence pretty darn early. You don't start there. Nobody starts there. You start small, and then you make small tweaks. And then over time, all of a sudden, your investment income starts to pick up, and your expenses may not grow as fast. You might get raises, you might get promotions, you might get bonuses, you might get stock options, like we talked about. All those things can add up into growing your top line and getting a bigger gap between your expenses, what you bring in every so often. For sure.
So, my man, we have one more question for you. We can't have you on FYI Fly and not ask you our famous final question. So I'm going to say two quotes, and I need you to let me know which one is more accurate in your opinion, all right?
All right.
All right. So
Bring
the
it.
first one is more money, more problems, like Biggie Smalls. Shout out to him. And the second one is money can't buy happiness. Which one do you agree with most?
Money can't buy happiness. Absolutely.
You said that with some quickness.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't have to think too hard about this. If you're not happy without money, you're going to be unhappy with it. Money makes you more of what you are. And you have to ground on that. You have to be able to say, you have to feel comfortable in your own skin. You have to be comfortable. Your spouse, if you have one, your kiddos have to be comfortable in their own skin. Money will not make you happy. It won't. It can buy you things, but then you get used to those new things. And you get on what's called this hedonic treadmill of just buying more things to be able to try to get happiness. That's not the way it works. First, you got to get happy and focus on what you want to do, and then the money will come later.
Man, we are so aligned, Kevin, and I already knew this conversation was going to be great, man. I tell you, literally, when I'm talking to students, before we get into the money talk, we talk about their biggest goals and biggest dreams, because I feel like the money is a byproduct of you accomplishing those big goals and those big dreams. So all of that will come, but you chasing that why, you chasing that vision, that's really where the happiness comes once you accomplish that, or just that journey of you actually trying to, accomplish it is a motivator as well. So, man,
In
go ahead, go
serving
ahead. You got.
others, in serving others, we find ourselves. If you want to
Mhm.
make more money, be of more service to people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Kevin. Thank you so much for joining the FY Fly podcast. If you have
Thanks
any
for having me.
final words, any final takeaways, go ahead and also let them know where they can reach you, man.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Not so many great takeaways except just continue to listen to this amazing podcast. And I'd say the second thing is if you want to reach me, just go to scalefinance.com. That's scaled as in past tense, scalefinance.com, and check me out there. I'm also on LinkedIn is probably the easiest place to find me. I'm on Facebook and not so much on the other socials. I do have a YouTube channel as well at Scale Finance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And for all my listeners, try to take some of these gems that we talked. I know we talked about a lot, but if you can take one or two gems that you can apply today and start working on those small habits, I promise over time they will become large results. So again, Kevin, thank you so much, man. This was
Thank you, Hassan.
amazing. And all my listeners, stay safe, stay invested, and stay FY Fly. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you all for listening to FY Fly, the podcast, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Tune in next week for more financial literacy insights with our special guests. Please visit our website, social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at FYI Fly Podcast. That's FYI FLI Podcast. See y'all next week and stay fly.